Hi Pre-Calc, this is video 7. I hope I can finish with this video, but if not, we will go to video 8. This last part is important, and I forgot that there's so much other stuff in this section that I have to point out to you. So here we go. Let's talk a moment about your calculator, and then I will come back at the end to your calculator again. So you should notice above your trig keys are these sine to the -1, cosine of the -1, tangent to the -1. So these are your arcs. And if you use any of these three keys, you're asking the calculator what is the angle, what's the output angle, okay? So for instance, since it's asking for an arc sine of 0.65, it's asking what angle has this ratio of sides, what angle. Now, my calculator is going to give me an answer to that, but the answer that it gives me is going to depend on what unit I'm in, okay? The ratio of the sides is unitless because if you have two sides and it's feet over feet, the feet cancel, right? If you have two sides, they're going to have the same units, and the units on those two sides cancel. So what comes out is going to be whatever mode you happen to be in. So if you're in degrees, your answer's in degrees. If you're in radians, your answer's in radians. Your book is going to be in radians. So I would suggest when you do these problems, this is going to be like 21, 23, 25, 27, this set here. This is what I'm doing now. I'd put your calculator in radians for this, okay? All right, so here I go, I'll show you. So I'm going to do arc sine. I'm going to do arc sine of 0.65. I'm in radians. Okay, so I have to hit second. I have to hit second because I need the above here, above the key. So that's second gets you above the key. Okay, so you can see I got arc sine there. And so 0.65. And I'm going to hit equal, and they ask for 2 decimals in your book, so I'll do it the way your book's asking. So 0.71. 0.71 is the estimate. All right, I'll do another one. So again, I'm still in radians. I'm now going to use the arc cosine of -0.7. Okay, so I have to hit shift. This key, arc cosine's up here, so I have to hit this key, so I get the arc cosine. Now I'm going to again do negative. Don't hit the minus sign. You should have a negative key, right? Don't hit the minus sign. You hit the negative key. So negative 0.7. I love how I can't remember that for 5 seconds. It just goes right on. I had to look at it like 3 times. Okay, if we round this to 1 decimal, it's 2.35. 2.35. So that's an estimate of 2.35. And again, I'm putting these answers in radians. If you have it in degrees, it's going to be a different value. It'll still be correct, but if you're in a different unit, the value is going to be different. Okay? So your answer key is going to be in radians. Or let me say I'm pretty sure it's in radians. I didn't double check myself. It usually is in radians for the arcs. All right, I'll come back to the calculator, so we'll review that again, but let's just move on to some other questions. Write theta as a function of x. So they're not asking you to solve anything here, they just want you to isolate theta. So they want the answer to be something like theta equals blah, 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 like that. So the first thing you want to do is figure out what sides you have. So I have the adjacent and I have the hypotenuse. That's the 2 sides that I have. So I'm going to start by figuring out what trig function is going to make that. So adjacent over the hypotenuse is a cosine. So cosine of theta equals to 4 over x. Cosine of theta is 4 over x. Now the thing is they want me to isolate theta. So if I isolate theta, then that means I have to take the arc cosine of both sides. So theta is going to have to equal to the arc cosine of 4 over x. Okay, and that's the final answer. They're not asking us to solve anything. They just want us to be able to isolate theta. And if you isolate theta, you have to convert it into an arc because angles equal arcs. All right, I'll try another one of those with you. Write theta as a function of x. So same thing. This is just a little scratch mark. That isn't me trying to do artwork or whatever that looks like. right, so what sides do I have here? I have the opposite and I have the adjacent to theta. So that's going to be the tangent. So tangent of theta equals to the opposite over the adjacent. Now they want you to isolate theta. So theta equals to arctan of x plus 1 over 10. All right? So you have to get the theta by itself. All right, that's the answer to that one. That one's done. All right, let's try another one. Find the exact value without a calculator. All right, this is where it gets a little weird and you're going to get like a little uncomfortable, but you can do this. First of all, you got to figure out what quadrant you're in. So arc sine can't live in 2 or 3. So you only have a choice between 1 and 4. This is positive, so it has to be up. So I have a triangle up in quadrant 1 because it's positive. So this is the opposite. This is the hypotenuse. Okay, so the opposite's 4. The hypotenuse is 5. If you do the Pythagorean Theorem, you're going to get that this is 3. I just happen to know it, but it's just Pythagorean Theorem finding the missing side. You may know it too. Okay, so this sets up the triangle, and then you want the cosine of this arc. Now remember, arcs are angles, so they're basically saying what is the cosine of this theta, right? Arcs are angles, so they're saying what is the cosine of this theta. So the cosine of this theta would be the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So the answer would be the adjacent over the hypotenuse, or 3/5. So what I'm saying is this helps you, this gives you the triangle, and then you figure out what sides they want on the final triangle. I'll do another one of those so you can see it. I know arcs are weird, so if you're struggling, you know, the best I can sort of do to help is to keep showing you so you can see the pattern of how you do it. All right, so this is very similar to what we did before. This part in here, this is arc cosine. So over 1, so this means that this is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. Now, arc cosine lives in quadrant 1 and 2, so I have to stay out of 3 and 4. This is positive radical 5, which means I have to be in quadrant 1. Okay, so the adjacent is radical 5. The hypotenuse is 1. That doesn't make any sense. I must have written that wrong. You know what? I'm just gonna have to scratch that. How would they expect? That doesn't make any sense. I must have written something wrong on that. Okay, let me come back to that if I can see what I wrote down there. Your adjacent can't be bigger than your hypotenuse. That's why that has me confused. Okay, let me then just run down to this one, or let me just see if I can find something. All right, let me just run down to this one before I get all confused. Okay, so the sine of arctan x. So now this one you're not solving. This one's an algebraic expression, okay, because they're not defining what x is. So if I put theta here, arctan is going to be your opposite over your adjacent. So opposite is x, adjacent is 1. All right, now I have to algebraically figure out this third side. So it's that you're going to use Pythagorean Theorem, but it's going to be a little weird because it's in variables. So a I have as 1, b I have as x squared, and I need to solve for c. I need to solve for this side here. So 1 plus x squared equals to c squared, or the square root is equal to c. So c is 1 plus x squared. All right, so this part in here sets up the triangle, and now I'm going to do the sine of this arc. And remember, arcs are angles, so you're basically doing what sine of theta. So sine of this arc is going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse. You're going to get this. Okay, let me keep rattling off here. Okay, algebraic expression. Okay, so we're doing another one of what we just did. It's not an exact value, so it's not putting you in a particular quadrant. Let's see, the arctan is giving you what sides here? That'd be the opposite, that'd be the adjacent. Okay, opposite is 3x, adjacent is 1. We have to solve for this third side. Alright, so here we go. We're going to get a squared plus b squared equals to c squared. A is 1 squared plus 3x squared equals to c squared. 1 plus 9x squared equals to c squared, so c plus 9x squared. Okay. I'm sure you guys can do the algebra on that part. You don't need me to explain that. 1 plus 9x squared. Alright, so now you want the secant of this theta, right? Arcs or thetas. You want the secant of this theta. So the secant of this theta is going to be the hypotenuse. I'm going to have to write it down here because I've squeezed myself out. Okay, the secant's going to end up being the hypotenuse over the adjacent, which is 1. So we could just write that. That'd be fine. Okay, so it's just the hypotenuse over 1 because that's what the secant is. And so we could just simplify it to that. Okay, let's solve for theta. Okay, now this one, please, if you're a little tired, it's the last one I'm doing, so just perk up a minute here, and then I'll just chat for a little bit at the end. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired too, so I hope I'm explaining things. I'm doing the best I can, so I hope it's coming out clear. Okay, so I want you to actually calculate, and let's do this one in degrees. So the first thing I need to do is convert my calculator to degrees. Alright, I'm in degrees now. Good. Alright, so what two sides I have here? The opposite and the adjacent. So that's the tangent. So the tangent of theta equals to 8 over 11. If I isolate theta, I get arctan of 8 over 11. And now I'm going to approximate this. Let's just do 2 decimals on this guy. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to do arctan, shift arctan. Okay, that's my arctan. 8 divided by 11. Oh, my hand hit the wrong key. Okay, shift arctan 8 divided by 11. Okay, we said 2 decimals, so it's 36.03 degrees. 36.03 degrees, okay. And so then this angle here is 36.03 degrees. Okay, and that one we did in degrees, and we used the arctan key for that. All right, a little housekeeping. This is actually a major announcement. Major announcement. I am not going to give you guys a test 3. There is just too much stuff that we still haven't finished. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make test 3 and the final exam a joint test. So your test 3 final exam, that will be your last exam, and that will be on May 5th. And you'll still have the 24 hours, the whole setup that we do here online. I'm going to count it as a test and a half. A test and a half. So instead of it being out of 100 points, it's going to be out of 150 points. It's going to be a test and a half. So how I'm going to look at it is test 1 was 100 points. Test 2 was 100 points. Test 3 finals 150 points. So that means that you could get a potential total of 350 points. So it's how many points that you earned out of 350, and that is going to count for 85% of your grade. Your 3 tests like this. I'm going to calculate this. So 15% your homework, and I'm so behind, I'm probably not going to be able to grade that in advance. I just want to check. I'll just check at the end that you've been involved in doing the homework and submitting it. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can skip a problem here or there. Obviously not half of it, but you know what I'm saying. Like I realize this. You can't ask me as many questions, nor can I get back to you as often. So I realize. But please make a good effort. Okay. So when I do your grade, we're going to do 15% on the homework. We're going to do 85% 100% on the test. And like I said, the last one's going to count for 150. So it'll be your, it'll have a lot of points to it. Okay, gang. So next test will be 5-5. And then, of course, I'll give you a chance to, I'll give you the week before the test, which will be the last week of April. I'll just assign you guys to review that week. No new lessons. So I really just have this week and next week to teach, and we're done. That's what I got. If you missed any part of this, you can obviously rewind it. But also, I'll post stuff on Moodle as we get closer. Okay, gang. Hope that helped. I'll catch you. Bye-bye.